Chapter 50 Why Don't the Prince Take a Concubine? You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hearing Mu Zixuan's voice, Chu Yuqin, whose brain was already confused and obsessed, suddenly woke up. She quickly pushed Lu Chen hard and said anxiously, "Chener, let go of Auntie, Zixuan is coming in." Lu Chen felt like crying but had no tears left. "My good princess, when won't you come? Why did you come at this time?" Then Lu Chen had no choice but to let go of Chu Yuqin. However, Chu Yuqin did not run away immediately. She looked at Lu Chen and asked with concern, "Chener, are you feeling better now?" Lu Chen nodded and said, "Well, it's much better. It seems that this is indeed useful. Aunt Chu, you must help me take care of my body regularly from now on." Chu Yuqin said, "Can't you ask Zixuan and the others to help you?" Lu Chen said, "Zixuan and the others are not warriors and have no inner strength, so they are useless. However, Qingxi seems to have no feelings for me and cannot meet the conditions for dual cultivation." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Chu Yuqin felt that her brain was about to burn out. She quickly said, "Okay, if you feel uncomfortable in the future, just come to me. I'll go out first." Having said this, Chu Yuqin immediately walked towards the door. When Mu Zixuan saw Chu Yuqin opening the door, she was stunned for a moment. Chu Yuqin quickly explained, "I checked Chener's body. You guys can chat while I leave first." As soon as the words fell, Chu Yuqin ran away quickly. Seeing Chu Yuqin's panicked back and her flushed face, Mu Zixuan instantly realized what had just happened. She turned to look at Lu Chen and apologized, "Your Majesty, it's all my fault for disturbing your good deeds. I will definitely pay attention to this in the future." Hearing this, Lu Chen smiled slightly, and then said, "It's okay, Aunt Chu and I just chatted and didn't do anything shameful. By the way, my beloved concubine, why did you come to see me?" Mu Zixuan immediately entered the study and replied, "Your Majesty." Mu Zixuan was about to speak when she suddenly smelled a pungent smell. As Lu Chen's princess, how could Mu Zixuan not know what this smell was? Mu Zixuan glanced at Lu Chen speechlessly, and said that she didn't do anything shameful just now, but the smell in this room was so strong. Seeing that Mu Zixuan suddenly stopped talking and seemed to have a strange expression on her face, Lu Chen knew that Mu Zixuan must have misunderstood, so he immediately added, "Oh, by the way, I have been here before." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Mu Zixuan realized that the smell in the room was caused by Wang Qingxi. Lu Chen continued, "My dear concubine, just tell me if you have anything to do." Mu Zixuan immediately said, "Your Majesty, I took over the palace's business today and found that our sales of soap and perfume in the capital have dropped significantly recently. I don't know what's going on." Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. He immediately came to Mu Zixuan, then hugged Mu Zixuan's body and said, "My dear concubine, you just gave birth to a child. Why don't you take a good rest and take over the palace's business so quickly?" Mu Zixuan said, "Your Majesty, I am idle in the palace, and Feng'er is taken care of." In ancient times, when the wives of high-ranking officials gave birth to a child, they usually hired a wet nurse, and the palace was no exception. After Mu Zixuan gave birth to a child, although she would also take care of the child, most of the time it would be taken care of by the palace's wet nurse and maids, and she would be more relaxed. Mu Zixuan is a person who can't sit still. She was a little tired of staying in the palace for so long because of her pregnancy, so she took over the palace's business again just after giving birth. Mu Zixuan continued to ask, "Your Majesty, I heard that you formed an organization to collect intelligence. Do you know what happened in the capital?" Although the genie Wei did not appear in public, Mu Zixuan often saw some genie Wei in the palace these days who came to report intelligence to Lu Chen, so she also knew something about the genie Wei and knew that Lu Chen had formed an intelligence agency. Mu Zixuan just gave birth to a child, and Lu Chen would definitely not tell her about the affairs of Duke Mu's mansion. Lu Chen said at this time, "The capital city has been relatively turbulent recently. I heard that the commanders of the Forbidden Army have changed again and again. The poor business in the palace may also be related to the current situation." Mu Zixuan showed a thoughtful expression, and then said, "So that's it. I was telling you why the palace's business dropped so fast." Lu Chen basically knew the reason for the decline in the palace's business. and it was definitely not just because of the turbulent current situation. Soap, perfume, soap, these are all new things, and they sell very well in the capital and are very profitable. It is impossible for no one to covet them. In the past, Duke Mu's mansion was watching, so no one dared to take advantage of the shops in Beiwangfu. But now that Duke Mu's family has been exiled, who is still afraid of Duke Mu's mansion? Moreover, the northern king was far away in Beijun and could not control the capital. Beiwangfu's shop in the capital was probably either robbed or smashed. Some people may have started to wonder about the method of making soap and perfume. In the future, the palace's business philosophy must change. It is best to find local businessmen or high-ranking officials to cooperate and share some of the benefits with others, otherwise they will keep thinking about it. Thinking of this, Lu Chen said to Mu Zixuan, "My dear concubine, from now on our palace's business will not only be done in the capital, but also spread to other fiefdoms. When doing business in the future, try to give some gifts to the feudal lords, especially shares in the shops, otherwise others will always think about you." Hearing Lu Chen's reminder, Mu Zixuan instantly understood what Lu Chen meant. When doing business, you need to pay attention to the sophistication of the world, and some profits that should be given up must be given away. Mu Zixuan then said, "I will bear in mind the prince's reminder." Mu Zixuan suddenly thought of something at this time, and then said, "Your Majesty, there is something I don't know whether I should say." Lu Chen smiled slightly, then scratched the bridge of her delicate nose. "If there is anything else we can't talk about between husband and wife, tell me, what is it?" Mu Zixuan said, "Your Majesty, I have just given birth to a child, and the two sisters Xiao Xiao are also pregnant. As a result, Miss Wang is the only one to serve the prince. The prince's health is getting better and better recently, and Miss Wang seems to be unable to bear it any longer. Why don't you take a concubine for the prince?" Hearing Mu Zixuan mention Wang Qingci, Lu Chen felt a little angry. Of course, he was not angry with Mu Zixuan, but thought that Wang Qingci actually expelled his feelings from his body. After Lu Chen pondered for a moment, he said, "Since you have said so, my beloved concubine, then I will find time to take in a concubine. But there don't seem to be many beautiful women in North County. As you know, my beloved, although I am a lustful person, I only like stunning women. I don't have much interest in ordinary women." Hearing this, Mu Zixuan thought for a while, and then said, "Your Majesty, how about this? We send out a concubine summons letter and openly summon concubines to all the families in the Great Xia Dynasty. When the time comes, there will definitely be many families sending their daughters to the northern prince's mansion to choose concubines. As long as there are enough people, there will always be a woman who can impress the prince." Chapter 51. Lu Chen also has a special identity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hearing Mu Zixuan's suggestion, Lu Chen's eyes lit up and he felt that this method was feasible. At first, his eyes were limited to Beijun, mainly because he was not strong enough yet and he did not want to be too high profile. Moreover, he had just come to Beijun at that time and was still very poor. Even if he issued an announcement to choose a concubine, beautiful girls from other fiefdoms might not come to Beijun. Nowadays, Beiwangfu soap, perfume, and soap products have spread all over the Great Xia Dynasty, and many people know that Beiwangfu is rich. If the concubine selection announcement is issued at this time, many big families will definitely be interested and send beautiful girls from their families to the North Prince's mansion. As long as there are enough people, there will always be someone with a score of over 90 points. After Lu Chen was silent for a while, he said to Mu Zixuan, "Okay, then just follow what my beloved concubine said." Seeing that Lu Chen agreed, Mu Zixuan immediately said, "My lord, can you leave the matter of choosing a concubine to me?" Lu Chen hugged Mu Zixuan's body, stroked her hair and said, "You just gave birth to a baby not long ago, you should take good care of yourself." Although Lu Chen is a scumbag, he is not such a beast. His own princess just gave birth to a child and he made her busy and asked her to help take in concubines. What is it like? Mu Zixuan said, "I want to share the burden for you, Your Majesty, please leave this matter to me." Speaking of this, Mu Zixuan looked straight at Lu Chen with her bright eyes. Seeing Mu Zixuan's eyes, Lu Chen felt a little touched in his heart and couldn't bear to refuse, so he had to say, "Okay, I'll worry about the concubine, but I need to be present in person on the day of choosing the concubine." Seeing that Lu Chen agreed to let her take over the concubinage matter, Mu Zixuan was very happy. She immediately said, "Don't worry, Your Majesty. When choosing a concubine, I will definitely let you choose it yourself." A few days later, the Beiwang mansion issued a concubinage announcement to the entire Xia Dynasty. As soon as the concubinage announcement was issued, Lu Chen was scolded by the people of the Great Xia Dynasty. Not many people in Beijing thought this was a big deal. After all, King Bei didn't do anything to trouble the people after coming to Beijing. Moreover, Bai Wangfu seems to have recently cultivated grain seeds that can produce 1,000 kilograms per mu. Bai Wangfu has already had people try planting them in various places in Beijing. If this kind of food called potatoes is popularized, then the entire North County will no longer be short of food, so the people of Bei County will be tolerant of Lu Chen's indulgence. Of course, the most critical point is that the people of Beijing are all in Lu Chen's fiefdom. Lu Chen is the king of Beijing, and no one dares to scold their king in the fiefdom unless they don't want to live anymore. It was different in other territories. Most people in the Xia dynasty believed that the northern king indulged in promiscuity and was fatuous and incompetent. They had long heard that King Bei kept many beautiful concubines in his palace, and they spent their days having fun and enjoying wine and meat. There are already so many beautiful concubines in the northern king's capital, but they still want to take concubines, and they have to face all the territories of the Great Xia dynasty to take concubines. Is it possible that King Bei has already played with all the beautiful girls in Bei County and is tired of playing with them, so he wants to harm the girls in other vassal kings' territories again? Thinking of this, some upper-class literati and flirtatious people became very angry. If King Bei sent all the beautiful girls to King Bei's mansion, how could they keep concubines? For a time, literati from various places wrote articles criticizing the northern king. At the same time, there were also remarks about impeaching the northern king in the court of Xia. The court officials impeached King Bei, naturally not because they were worried that King Bei would steal their women. Generally, things that were brought to court had political reasons. Most of those who impeached the northern king were officials from the 8th Prince Lu Xuyan's faction. As for the purpose, it was mainly to belittle Lu Chen. Although the Chu family has basically no contact with the northern king, as long as there is that blood relationship, officials from Lu Xuyan's faction will not miss any opportunity to slander the northern king. It's not that they thought that if Lu Chen was impeached, Lu Chen would be deprived of the throne. The vassal kings of the Xia dynasty were not easily deprived of their thrones, unless they rebelled or committed betrayal of the Xia dynasty. For someone like King Bei who did not do anything wrong in Tibet, but just stayed in his own palace to have fun, the court would not care about him. Emperor Xia wished that the Great Xia dynasty would all have vassal kings like Lu Chen. If the Great Xia dynasty had vassal kings like Lu Chen, then the Xia emperor would be able to control the entire Great Xia more easily. Faced with Yan Guan's impeachment of Lu Chen, Emperor Xia didn't take it seriously at all. The recent events in the capital were the most important. As for King Bei, as long as he didn't rebel, what he did in Bei County had nothing to do with the court. After leaving the court, Emperor Xia went to the imperial garden. Emperor Xia didn't take the commotion in the court seriously, and it was time to deal with business after the court. At this moment, Imperial Master Situ Su was already waiting in the pavilion. Unlike the ministers in the court, the Imperial Master does not have to go to court. This is the prerogative of the Grand Master. When Emperor Xia appeared in the pavilion, a shadow guard wearing black armor appeared in front of him. "Your Majesty, I have found out that the remnants of the Qin kingdom entered the palace not to assassinate you, but to find something." Since the remnants of the Qin state entered the palace, Emperor Xia sent people to investigate the purpose of the remnants of the Qin state entering the palace. He didn't believe that the remnants of the Qin kingdom would be so stupid, daring to enter the palace to assassinate him when there were only 2 half-step masters. That was no different from committing suicide. After hearing the shadow guard's words, Emperor Xia narrowed his eyes slightly. As he thought, the remnants of the Qin kingdom did not want to assassinate him, but had an ulterior motive. At this time, Emperor Xia asked Situ Su in the pavilion, "What does the imperial master think the remnants of the Qin kingdom are looking for when they enter the palace?" Situ Su said, "The only thing that can make the remnants of the Qin kingdom take such a big risk to enter the palace to look for it is the Qin kingdom's jade seal. It is rumored that the jade seal of the Qin state is the key to the Qin state's treasure house. After Daxia captured the Qin state, the location of the Qin state's treasure house has not been found, but I believe that the remnants of the Qin state's royal family must know about it. If the Qin state wants to recover, it needs money to recruit troops and horses, so they should be eager to open the Qin state's treasury and take out the gold and silver treasures inside. After hearing what Situ Su said, Emperor Xia snorted coldly and said, "Even I don't know where the jade seal of the state of Qin is. They actually want to come to the palace to look for the jade seal of the state of Qin. It's simply ridiculous." At this time, the shadow guard in front of Emperor Xia continued, "Your Majesty, my subordinates also found out one more thing." Emperor Xia said calmly, "Tell me." The commander of the shadow guards immediately said, "My subordinates found out that the remnants of the Qin kingdom seem to be related to Xianyue Palace. After the remnants of the Qin kingdom disappeared, the disciples of Xianyue Palace appeared in the place where they last appeared." Upon hearing the word Xianyue Palace, Emperor Xia's face darkened instantly, as if the word Xianyue Palace touched something he didn't want to recall. Emperor Xia then said, "I understand." Having said this, Emperor Xia immediately asked, "How is Xiaojiu doing?" That the commander of the shadow guard replied, "After the 9th prince went to Beijing, he had fun in the palace every day. There was nothing unusual. In addition, the 9th prince's princess gave birth to the prince a few days ago." After listening to the report from the shadow guard commander, Emperor Xia said calmly, "Okay, you can go down." "Yes, Your Majesty, I am resigning." After the shadow guard commander left, Emperor Xia clasped his hands behind his back and looked at the fish swimming in the lotus pond and said, "National Master, why do I feel that the Grand Master next to Xiaojiu was not sent by Chu Xiong, but instead seemed to be placed under his control by Xianyue Palace?" Around. Lu Chen's mother, Chu Yu, was once a member of Xianyue Palace and was also the goddess of Xianyue Palace. Emperor Xia didn't think about Xianyue Palace at first. It wasn't until the Shadow Guard commander mentioned it just now that he realized that Lu Chen had a special identity. "I've been sick these days, so updates are slow. I'll update after a while." Chapter 52. Someone should indeed be sent to watch him. You are listening at novelfull.audio. According to the regulations of Xianyue Palace, the child born to the goddess of Xianyue Palace is the son of God, so Lu Chen is the son of God of Xianyue Palace. Thinking of this, Emperor Xia's face became uncertain. Now he regretted sending Lu Chen out to join the feudal clan. This is an extremely unstable factor. After all, it involves the sex in Daxia. Xianyue Palace will probably use King Bei to deal with the capital. Now Xianyue Palace is suspected of colluding with the remnants of the Qin kingdom. Who knows what they want to do? Thinking of this, Emperor Xia sneered and said, "The family has not been solved yet," and the sect jumped out again. "It really won't let me have an easy day." Hearing this, Situ Su said, "If your Majesty is worried about the collusion between King Bei and Xianyue Palace, why not send a shadow guard beside him to monitor him?" After hearing Situ Su's words, Emperor Xia pondered for a moment. "You should indeed send someone to watch him." After the words fell, Emperor Xia said to him, "Commander Bai, I leave this matter to you. You go to Beijing in person. I want to find out which Grandmaster is so kind to Xiaojiu and has always been by his side. Be there to protect him." There seemed to be no one behind Emperor Xia at this time, but as Emperor Xia finished speaking, the figure of a woman wearing white clothes gradually emerged. The woman has a graceful figure and a curvy figure, and her face is cold and expressionless. She saluted and said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Emperor Xia continued, "Okay, go down. My subordinates resign." After the woman finished speaking, her body disappeared again, as if she had become invisible. Seeing that Emperor Xia actually asked the deputy commander of the Shadow Guard to go to Beijing in person, Situ Su felt a little incredible. Then he asked, "Your Majesty, would it be a bit of a fuss to ask Commander Bai to go to Beijing to investigate this matter?" Emperor Xia said calmly, "Anything related to Xianyue Palace is not a trivial matter." Seeing that Emperor Xia had said this, Situ Su stopped talking. He knew very well that Emperor Xia was very afraid of Xianyue Palace, which had a lot to do with Chu Yu. At this time, Situ Su asked, "Your Majesty, Mu Changtian should be leaving the capital in the next few days, right?" Hearing Situ Su mention Mu Changtian, Emperor Xia's expression changed slightly and became gloomy. What? Is the imperial master planning to intercede for Mu Changtian? Hearing Emperor Xia's cold tone, Situ Su knew that nothing he could say would be of any use. Emperor Xia was determined to have his own way and must get rid of Mu Changtian's family. Since there was no point in saying anything, Situ Su did not intend to waste any more time. He immediately said, "That's not true. I just want to persuade your majesty that if you want to take action against the Jiangnan family, you must have a few confidants around you." Originally, Mu Changtian could be the sword Emperor Xia used to get rid of the Jiangnan family, but Emperor Xia was afraid of the military power in his hands and insisted on killing him. Now there are fewer and fewer trustworthy people around Emperor Xia, and he may really become a loner in the future. However, Situ Su did not intend to interfere too much. As long as the Great Xia Dynasty still had the surname Lu, everything had nothing to do with him as the Great Master. Faced with Situ Su's reminder, Emperor Xia said nonchalantly, "I will remember the Imperial Master's reminder." The 8th Prince's residence, Lu Shuyan looked at the intelligence collected in front of him and said with a sneer, "My 9th brother is really stupid and lucky. The soaps and perfumes he makes are so profitable, that the battle between princes also requires money to win people's hearts, so Lu Shuyan has always been more concerned about making money. For example, the masters in his mansion were recruited with money. If there was no money, he would not be able to recruit so many masters." Seeing Lu Chen having fun in the palace all day long, not having to do anything, not having to take care of anything, and making hundreds of thousands of taels of silver by leaving all the palace business to a woman, how could Lu Shuyan not be jealous? He had built so many industries and could not earn hundreds of thousands of taels of silver in a month, but Lu Chen, a good-for-nothing prince, could, which made Lu Shuyan feel very unbalanced. After hearing what Lu Shuyan said, the guest next to him whispered, "Your Highness, why don't we find a way to go to Beiwang Mansion to steal the soap and perfume-making methods, and then sell soap and perfume ourselves?" Lu Shuyan said calmly, "No need, the owner of Blood Moon Tower has already gone to Beijun in person. I think it won't be long before he can bring back the methods of making soap and perfume." Hearing this, Kuching's face changed greatly, and he quickly said, "Your Highness, you must not touch the 9th Prince at this time. If anything happens to the 9th Prince, many people in the court will definitely say that it was you who sent someone, Your Highness. Assassinated the 9th Prince, this will be very detrimental to your succession. This is a critical period and there must be no room for error." Faced with Kuching's persuasion, Lu Shuyan didn't care at all. Now that the situation in the capital is in chaos, not many people care about that good-for-nothing prince in the north. And the barbarians will move north soon. No one will know that Shuyue Tower did this. The ministers will only focus on the barbarians. Hearing Lu Shuyan's words, Kuching's expression froze. It was obvious that the amount of information Lu Shuyan said was so huge that Kuching beside Lu Shuyan could not react for a moment. A few days later, at the gate of the capital, prison cars passed by the city gate one after another, but the people did not throw stones or rotten eggs at the prisoners inside the cars as usual. Common people all know that today is the day when Mu Guogong's family is exiled, and the people in the prison van are all family members of Mu Guogong's family. The common people still know who Duke Mu is. He is one of the 2 great kings of the Xia dynasty. He was the one who supported the Xia emperor to ascend to the throne. Although he has fallen to this stage now, the people still respect him in awe. At this moment, on the tower, a man in silver armor looked at the slowly advancing prison car and asked the people around him, "Are you all ready?" The soldier next to him immediately said, "General, don't worry, I guarantee that everything will be perfect." The man nodded with satisfaction, stared at Mu Changtian in the prison car, and then said to himself, "Teacher, have a good trip." The Mu Mansion's exile convoy encountered no danger at all in the first 2 days, and the people in the Mu Mansion even thought that they were fine, but Mu Changtian is not stupid. Everything they eat and use in the past 2 days must be thoroughly inspected by them. Although the soldiers escorting them are unlikely to do anything to them, they must be on guard against others, and he didn't believe that Emperor Xia would let their family go. After all, he is also one of the 2 kings of Daxia. Even if his martial arts has been abolished, in the eyes of Emperor Xia, letting him go is still equivalent to letting the tiger return to the mountain. 2 nights later, Mu's convoy arrived at an inn. There were no villages or shops around the inn, and there was no one very far away. The officer escorting the Mu mansion saw that it was already so late, so he said to Mu Changtian, "Mr. Mu, why don't we rest here tonight?" Although Mu Guogong's mansion has been exiled, the escorting officers are still very respectful to their family. The corners of Mu Changtian's mouth raised slightly, and then he said, "Okay, let's rest here for one night." Chapter 53. Come out, stop hiding. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As Mu Changtian finished speaking, the escorting officers took out the keys of the prison van, opened the door of the prison van, and released everyone from Duke Mu's mansion. Because they were escorting the Duke Mu's family, the guards were not so strict. Usually when they arrived at the resting place, they would open the car door and let them out to rest. At this time, a guard walked into the inn and said to the owner of the inn, "Honor, we are going to stay here today." "How many rooms does your inn have?" The shopkeeper said with a smile on his face. "Sir, the inn is full, you'd better go elsewhere." Hearing this, the officer said dissatisfiedly, "What, is it full? Are you kidding me? You have no business here, how can you get so many customers?" The innkeeper said, "Because there is no village in front of us and no store in the back, people passing by this road can only come to our inn to stay." Hearing this, the guard had no choice but to say, "Well, do you have a wider space here? Let's rest tonight." The innkeeper said, "The backyard of our inn is quite spacious. Why don't you spend the night in the backyard?" The servant thought for a while and was about to say something when the innkeeper immediately continued, "If the official stays at our inn, the food and drinks tonight will be free. What do you think?" After hearing this, the guard said without hesitation, "Well, find someone to help us feed the horses." The shopkeeper immediately said, "Okay, I will arrange for someone to feed the horse." The officer then turned around and left the inn, came to Mu Changtian, and said apologetically, "Mr. Mu, I'm really sorry. This inn is full of people, and I'm afraid you will have to rest in the open air tonight." Mu Changtian said calmly, "It doesn't matter, you can go and do your work." The servant immediately said, "Okay, I will ask the shopkeeper to bring you some food later." After the words fell, the officer walked away. At this time, 2 brothers, Mu Jingwu and Mu Xingping, surrounded him. Mu Xingping said, "Dad, why has it been 2 days and no one has taken action against us? Doesn't His Majesty intend to let us go?" Hearing this, Mu Changtian laughed, and then said, "Why are you so anxious? Aren't they coming soon?" Hearing this, Mu Xingping was startled, and then looked around nervously. "Where are they? Where are they? Why didn't I see them?" Mu Changtian looked at the inn in front of him and said, "They are waiting for us inside." Hearing this, Mu Xingping and Mu Jingwu turned their eyes to the inn in front of them. At this time, they saw a few people staring at them upstairs with half-open windows. Seeing that the Mu family noticed the upstairs, those people immediately closed the windows. Seeing this scene, Mu Jingwu and Mu Xingping were shocked. They thought that the emperor had already planned to let them go, but they didn't expect that it was just that the time hadn't come yet. They were afraid that those people would take action tonight. Mu Jingwu then asked, "Dad, what should we do now?" Mu Changtian said, "Let's talk about it tonight, I want to see who is coming." Mu Changtian knew in his heart that the emperor would definitely send a master-level expert this time, but he was not sure who he would be. There are many masters he can think of, and there are also many who have conflicts with him. Soon, the sun in the sky gradually set. Mu Changtian and the others were also very energetic. At this moment, a whistle sounded in the yard. As the whistle sounded, a group of people wearing black clothes and masks appeared in the yard. After seeing this scene, the officers escorting Mu Guogong's mansion understood something immediately. They quickly got up and ran away. The men in black did not stop the guards from escaping. After all, their target was not the guards themselves. The men in black took out their bows and arrows and aimed them at the people in Duke Mu's mansion. The men from Duke Mu's mansion immediately stood up and surrounded the men and children. At this time, the women in Duke Mu's mansion were trembling with fear and did not dare to move at all. At this time, the crowd in black gradually dispersed, and a man walked out of the crowd. The man took off his mask, revealing his scarred face. after seeing the man's true face, Mu Changtian sneered and said, "I just thought of anyone who might come to see me off, but I didn't think of you." Hearing this, the scarred man also smiled and said, "Teacher, if I hadn't come to see you off personally, how could His Majesty be willing to hand over the newly formed Dragon Guard army to me?" The scarred man in front of him is named Chen Pengyi. He was promoted by Mu Changtian, who can also be regarded as his mentor, on weekdays. In order to repay his teacher's kindness, Chen Pengyi was also very kind to Duke Mu's family, even when Mu Guogong's palace was implicated due to the Zhou family's rebellion a year ago. He personally begged Emperor Xia for mercy. In the end, Emperor Xia used the Iron Scroll to avoid death, so he did not take action against Mu Guogong's palace. However, what Mu Changtian didn't expect was that such a person would actually want his own life. Mu Changtian sighed and said, "People's hearts are really unpredictable. It seems that when you begged the emperor for mercy, it was just to get the Mu family to hand over the Iron Scroll to avoid death. This should be what the emperor asked you to do, right?" Chen Pengyi said calmly, "Teacher, it's already this time, what else is there to say about those things? Why don't you tell me what unfulfilled wishes you have, and maybe the students can fulfill them for you?" Hearing this, Mu Changtian laughed and said, "Ha ha ha, Chen Pengyi, today I was abandoned by Lu Xingqiu. You never thought that one day you would also be abandoned by Lu Xingqiu. By that time, I'm afraid your end will be even more miserable than mine." Chen Pengyi said with a nonchalant expression, "Teacher doesn't need to worry about this. I will never follow the teacher's path." "Okay, since the teacher has nothing to say, please go on your way." Having said this, Chen Pengyi waved his hand and said coldly, "Fire the arrow." However, at this moment, countless arrows suddenly shot down from the roof of the inn. Those brought by Chen Pengyi were hit by the arrows before they had time to react. Seeing this scene, Chen Pengyi's face suddenly darkened. "Who? How dare you interfere in His Majesty's affairs?" After Chen Pengyi finished speaking, he saw some people in red clothes jumping down from the building. These people were all at the 5th level. After seeing these people, Mu Changtian was slightly stunned. He actually guessed that the mysterious prince who gave them the Great Return pill would send people to rescue them, but he didn't expect that the people sent by the other party were actually warriors above the 5th level. It seemed that the prince really valued their Duke Mu's mansion. At this time, Chen Pengyi said coldly, "Since you dare to interfere in His Majesty's affairs, you should also be prepared to die." Then Chen Pengyi said loudly, "Come out, everyone, stop hiding." As soon as Chen Pengyi finished speaking, 2 masters and several warriors appeared behind Chen Pengyi. Seeing these people, Mu Changtian smiled and said, "Your Majesty really thinks highly of me. In order to kill me, a useless person, He actually sent 3 masters here." Chapter 54 How could you not lose your power? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing that the warriors behind him had appeared, Chen Pengyi looked at Mu Changtian in the distance and said, "Teacher, I can't believe that at this time, there is still someone willing to save you. It seems that the teacher doesn't want to appear so loyal and patriotic. If the teacher is truly loyal and patriotic, he should commit suicide immediately." As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Pengyi kicked off his legs and rushed towards Mu Chang. In just a blink of an eye, he was in front of Mu Changtian. Then he swung the knife. A white light flashed in front of Mu Changtian. Just when Chen Pengyi thought Mu Changtian was certain to die, suddenly, a force spurted out of Mu Changtian's body, and then, his body was wrapped in a ball of gas. The next moment, Mu Changtian raised his hand and caught Chen Pengyi's blade with his bare hands. Seeing this scene, Chen Pengyi was stunned, as were the 2 grandmasters behind him and the warriors who came to kill him. They heard that His Majesty gave the male power-dispersing pills to Duke Mu's mansion. The men in Duke Mu's mansion no longer had any kung fu in their bodies. At most, they were stronger and stronger than ordinary people, but judging from the aura released by Mu Changtian, it was obvious that he was still a master. There is a gap between masters and masters. There are many grandmasters in Daxia, but why can Mu Changtian become the so-called king? He was not just as simple as supporting the Xia emperor's ascension. In the Great Xia Dynasty, there were few people within the realm of the same master who were Mu Changtian's opponents, so he was able to become the king. Chen Pengyi said in disbelief, "You, how could you not have lost your power?" Chen Pengyi's tone was trembling. As Mu Changtian's student, he had followed Mu Changtian in many battles. He knew Mu Changtian's strength very well. I originally thought that getting rid of Mu Changtian this time would be a very easy job, and it would make Emperor Xia trust him more, but I didn't expect that Mu Changtian didn't dissipate his power. What a joke. Mu Changtian is the god of war. An existence that is said to be invincible within the realm of the same master. When they first arrested Mu Guogong's family in the capital, even the great master Situ Su, the national master, came forward in person. Otherwise, how could the Great Xia Dynasty easily capture Mu Changtian? But now he was told that Mu Changtian had not lost his power. Isn't this killing yourself? There was a trace of panic on Chen Pengyi's face. He knew very well that he was no match for Mu Changtian. If Mu Changtian had not lost his skills, he would have almost no chance of winning, but at this moment, a grandmaster behind Chen Pengyi said, "No. Mu Changtian has not fully recovered his strength. His protective aura is unstable, and at most he can only exert half of the strength of a grandmaster. After all, they are all masters, and they can tell at a glance whether Mu Changtian's strength has fully recovered. Mu Changtian's strength has indeed not fully recovered. Although the Great Return Pill can help Mu Changtian recover his skills, Mu Changtian only needs a period of adjustment to return to his peak, but the time is too short after all. There wasn't that much time for Mu Changtian to recover, so it was pretty good to be able to exert the strength of a half-step master." After hearing the words from the grandmaster behind him, the panic on Chen Pengyi's face was instantly wiped away, replaced by an unbridled smile. "Teacher. You really shocked this disciple." "Exactly, since you have not lost your skills, teacher, let me, my disciple, experience your strength." As he spoke, Chen Pengyi suddenly used his arm to pull the knife out of Mu Changtian's hand, and then struck Mu Changtian with another knife. The sharp sword wind swept towards Mu Changtian in an instant. This time, Mu Changtian did not directly catch it, but directly avoided it. At the same time, the two grandmasters behind Chen Pengyi also joined the battle. Although Mu Changtian is at the end of his strength, they will not be careless until Mu Changtian is dead. After all, Mu Changtian was the king of the Great Xia Dynasty. In order to kill Zhou Wangtian, the Great Xia Dynasty even sent out its Grand Master. Although Mu Changtian's skills have declined now, he is still not that easy to deal with. Seeing that Mu Changtian was besieged by three masters, Mu Jingwu and Mu Xingping rushed over, intending to help Mu Changtian. The two of them only have 8 levels of strength at most, so they are naturally no match for the Grandmaster, but they can alleviate the trouble caused by the other two Grandmasters to Mu Changtian. As Mu Xingping and Mu Jingwu joined the battle, the warriors brought by Chen Pengyi also took action. After that, the sounds of clashing swords and fighting continued to be heard in the backyard of the inn. Fortunately, those mysterious warriors in red clothes protected the Mu family members. Although Mu Changtian and the others were suppressed and beaten by the three great masters, Chen Pengyi and the others had no way of approaching the Mu family members. However, Chen Pengyi and the others were three masters after all, and the opponent also had several 9th-grade masters. Those red-clothed warriors would soon be no match for them. At this time, Mu Changtian was accidentally hit by one of the masters, and instantly stepped back more than 10 steps, and did not stop until he hit the wall of the courtyard. Seeing that Mu Changtian was injured, Chen Pengyi smiled and said mockingly, "Teacher, it seems you are old." Hearing this, Mu Changtian snorted coldly, and then said, "Chen Pengyi, even if I die today, I will definitely drag you down." As he spoke, Mu Changtian's aura instantly rose. Chen Pengyi's expression changed, and he immediately said, "No, he is going to use the blood-burning method. Stop it quickly." Poof. Just when Chen Pengyi wanted to ask the two masters around him to stop Mu Changtian from using the blood-burning method, a sword instantly penetrated Chen Pengyi's body, and Chen Pengyi did not even have time to release the master's body-protecting energy. Chen Pengyi tried his best to turn around, trying to see clearly who stabbed him. Before he could turn around, the person who assassinated him stabbed him again behind him. Seeing this scene, everyone present was dumbfounded. A grandmaster on Chen Pengyi's side immediately yelled, "Wei Chao! What are you doing?" At this time, Mu Changtian was also confused. He was already preparing to use the blood-burning method to fight Chen Pengyi and the others. However, a 9th-level warrior suddenly appeared from the crowd and stabbed Chen Pengyi in the back. "What's happening here?" Why didn't he understand? At this time, a grandmaster on Chen Pengyi's side immediately stabbed Wei Chao, who stabbed Chen Pengyi in the back with his sword. Wei Chao's light kung fu was so good that he borrowed the master's sword in an instant, jumped on his shoulders, and then jumped to the roof. Wei Chao said to Mu Changtian with a smile on his face, "Mr. Mu, don't use the blood-burning method indiscriminately. If the prince sees that you are seriously injured, we are afraid that we will be punished by the prince." Hearing Wei Chao's words, Mu Changtian instantly realized that this 9th-level warrior was also a member of the mysterious prince. Who is that mysterious prince, who can actually place such an important person next to Chen Pengyi? The appearance of Wei Chao further deepened Mu Changtian's curiosity about the mysterious prince. Chapter 55. It's time for the farce to end. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the Huban army was split, Emperor Xia established the Dragon Guard Army. The Dragon Guard Army was personally commanded by Emperor Xia, and Chen Pengyi was just a general who managed it on his behalf. It stands to reason that the Dragon Guard Army should be a very strictly selected army, and it would be difficult for other forces to place chess pieces in this army. But just a short time after it was formed, a 9th-grade masterpiece appeared next to Chen Pengyi. Moreover, this 9th-grade masterpiece belongs to the mysterious prince. This made Mu Changtian wonder to what extent the mysterious prince had controlled the Great Xia Dynasty. After Chen Pengyi fell to the ground, his eyes were fixedly waiting for Wei Chao on the roof. He really couldn't believe that Wei Chao was actually the one who stabbed him in the back. Chen Pengyi's eyes widened to their maximum size, and his 2 eyeballs were filled with red bloodshot eyes. He used all his strength to shout unwillingly, "Wei Chao!" After the words fell, Chen Pengyi left without even taking a breath. At this time, the Grandmaster on Chen Pengyi's side looked at Wei Chao and said, "Wei Chao, do you know what you are doing? If you disrupt His Majesty's plan, you and everyone in your family will pay the price." Wei Chao just smiled and said nothing. At this time, the air seemed to suddenly freeze, and the surrounding area instantly became quiet. The sound of swords clashing in the courtyard had also become quieter. This was not because Chen Pengyi and the others were all dead, but that people suddenly felt extremely depressed for some unknown reason. At this time, everyone heard a man's voice coming from the door of the courtyard. "The shadow guards are almost here, and the farce must end." Feeling that something was wrong, a grandmaster immediately said in the direction of the sound, "Who is it?" As soon as the master finished speaking, a ray of cold light struck. Before the master could resist, his head instantly flew into the air. At this time, another grandmaster reacted, and he immediately attacked the figure. However, the next moment, another cold light flashed through, and his head flew into the air, killing the master with one sword. Seeing this scene, everyone present was stunned. When the bodies of the 2 grandmasters brought by Chen Pengyi slowly fell to the ground, Mu Changtian finally saw the appearance of the people who came. The man was wearing red clothes and holding a long knife in his hand. After killing 2 people, there was no trace of blood on his knife. The man put the knife directly into the scabbard. Mu Xingping couldn't help but said at this time, Great Master." Mu Jingwu said from the side, "No. He is not a Grand Master. The Grand Master's momentum is even stronger, but his strength is probably close to that of the Grand Master." As soon as Mu Jingwu finished speaking, the man spoke to the air behind him, "Everyone, it's time to clear the place." After he finished speaking, several 9th-grade warriors appeared behind him, but these 9th-grade warriors were very strong. In just a short period of time, they killed all the warriors brought by Chen Pengyi. Mu Changtian stood motionless, feeling incredible, because he knew the person who came. This person turned out to be the owner of Yueli Restaurant in Beijing. Mu Changtian liked the food at Yueli Restaurant very much. Before his daughter married the 9th prince, he often went to Yueli Restaurant to drink, so he knew the owner of Yueli Restaurant quite well. Mu Changtian always believed that Yueli Restaurant was the property of the 8th prince Lu Chen, so he stopped going to Yueli Restaurant to drink after Mu Zishuan married the 9th prince. As a result, the person who came to save them today was actually the owner of Yueli Restaurant. And he didn't know that the owner of Yueli Restaurant was a strong man who could kill 2 masters in an instant. Not to mention that he has not recovered his strength now. Even at his peak, he could not kill 2 grandmasters in an instant. It's enough to show how powerful the owner of Yueli Restaurant is with swordsmanship. No, he is not just a swordsman. His knife is not simple either. After killing someone, not even a drop of blood was stained. Mu Changtian has never heard of any kind of knife that can do this. After coming back to his senses, Mu Changtian said with a smile, I didn't expect that the 8th prince has such a powerful person under his command. Boss Liang, you really hide your secrets. It seems that the prince you are talking about is the 8th prince, although it is a bit unbelievable, after all, Liang Zong has already appeared here, and Liang Zong is indeed the owner of the restaurant under the name of the 8th prince, so he should be the 8th prince's person, but Mu Changtian couldn't understand even more why the 8th prince would send someone to save him. You must know that the 8th prince is in the capital. He took such a big risk to save himself. Even if he rescued himself, what would be the use? The 8th prince does not seem to have any military power, right? The 8th prince, a prince without a vassal, only has 1,000 personal guards in the capital. At first, Mu Changtian thought that the prince wanted to rebel, so he thought of protecting himself and then pulling him to rebel, but he didn't expect that he was still the son of Emperor Xia. To be honest, this made Mu Changtian feel a little unhappy. After all, the other party was the 8th prince and had a blood relationship with Emperor Xia. How could he trust his son so easily after being tricked by me once? Hearing Mu Changtian's words, Liang Zong smiled and said, 8th prince. No, the 8th prince is not qualified for me to serve him. Liang Zong's words immediately made Mu Changtian dumbfounded. Not the 8th prince. Liang Zong, the owner of a restaurant owned by the 8th prince, is not actually the 8th prince's person. Mu Changtian then asked curiously, then who is the prince you are talking about? Now that we have reached this point, we can surely tell you, right? Liang Zong replied, don't worry, Mr. Mu, you will see him soon. Mu Changtian smiled and said, your prince is really mysterious. Although we know that Liang Zong's level has definitely not reached the level of the Grand Master, his strength is definitely infinitely close to the Grand Master. The mysterious prince is actually willing to release such a powerful person as an undercover, which proves that his masters are definitely not. There will be less. Mu Changtian now wanted to pry open Liang Zong's head, wanting to see which prince had so many masters and planned so many things. Liang Zong said at this time, Mr. Mu, from today on, the Mu mansion will cease to exist. Having said this, Liang Zong turned to the genie behind him and said, on the way to exile, Duke Mu was assassinated by thieves. At the critical moment, Duke Mu used the blood-burning magic and died together with the 3 masters. Having said this, Liang Zong turned his head, looked at Mu Changtian and asked, Mr. Mu, what do you think of this result? Of course, Mu Changtian knew that Liang Zong's intention in making this arrangement was to allow them to change their appearance and live under new identities to avoid being discovered by Emperor Xia. Mu Changtian said, then I'll trouble Boss Liang. Liang Zong said, Mr. Mu is too polite. This is what I should do. Genie Wei then began to take action and quickly reconstructed the crime scene. When the shadow guards arrived at the inn, the entire inn had been engulfed in fire, and only a few soldiers brought by Chen Pengyi were seriously injured and fell outside the fire scene. Chapter 56 Mu Changtian Speculation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the early morning, a convoy was driving on the bumpy road. The convoy was very quiet, and the only sounds from the few houses on the road were the horses' hooves and wheels. After a night of traveling all night, everyone in the Mu mansion was already tired. At this time, most of the female family members of the Mu mansion closed their eyes and fell asleep, but at this time, the men in Mu mansion could not sleep for a long time, especially Mu Changtian and his son. They sat on the carriage and looked at the mountains in the distance, not knowing what they were thinking. At this time, Mu Changtian suddenly said, this is the way to Beijing. Hearing this, Mu Jingwu and Mu Xingping, who were already a little tired, instantly became energetic. Mu Xingping immediately asked, Dad, did you read that correctly? Mu Changtian looked at the green mountains in the distance and replied, I have gone to Beijing many times to resist barbarian invasions. How could I be wrong? This is indeed the way to Beijing. Speaking of this, Mu Changtian frowned. Last night, Liang Zong didn't tell them where they were going. After they got on the carriage, Liang Zong's people immediately led the way. Because it was too dark at the time, Mu Changtian didn't see clearly which direction they were walking in. when it was daybreak, Mu Changtian could see clearly. He discovered many iconic peaks, which he had seen before when he led his army to Beijing to resist the barbarians. He is very familiar with North County, and some of the roads in North County have long been remembered in his mind. After hearing Mu Changtian's words, Mu Xingping guessed and said, "Dad, is it possible that the prince they are talking about is the ninth prince?" Mu Jingwu's tone was trembling, and he obviously couldn't believe what he said. How could they not know who the ninth prince was? Although the ninth prince is already Mu Zishuan's husband, everyone in Mu Guogong's palace still regards the ninth prince as a lazy and hedonistic good-for-nothing prince. As soon as Mu Xingping finished speaking, Mu Jingwu spoke up and said, "Xingping, what are you thinking about? How could he be the ninth prince? Don't you still know what kind of person he is?" "This," Mu Xingping said after a moment of silence, "that's true, then why did they take us to Beijing? Beijing is the fiefdom of the ninth prince, so the prince of Beijing can only be the ninth prince." Hearing Mu Xingping's words, Mu Jingwu didn't say anything. He just turned to look at his father, hoping that he would know something. At this time, Mu Changtian's brows were furrowed and his expression was a little serious. He thought for a long time before he said, "It is indeed impossible to be the ninth prince, but I suspect that the prince went to Beijing. He probably wanted to discuss something with me in Beijing. Of course, there is another possibility." At this point, Mu Changtian paused and did not continue. His face became a little more serious again. Seeing his face so gloomy, Mu Jingwu immediately asked, "Dad, is there still that possibility?" Mu Changtian thought for a moment and said, "It is possible that the person who saves us is not the prince of Daxia, but the barbarians." As soon as Mu Changtian said these words, brothers Mu Jingwu and Mu Xingping were stunned for an instant. Mu Changtian continued, "The barbarians are in the north. They asked us to go to their territory, so naturally we have to pass through Beijing. And they also have reasons for doing this. I know Daxia very well. Winning over me will make it easier for them to attack Daxia in the future." After hearing what Mu Changtian said, Mu Jingwu quickly said, "Dad, if they are really barbarians, then if we still surrender to them, wouldn't we really become traitors?" Mu Jingwu had a clear sense of right and wrong in his heart, so there was no problem at all for him to betray Emperor Xia. After all, Emperor Xia abandoned them and even wanted their lives, but if they were allowed to betray the entire Daxia, betray the people of Daxia, and then become butchers' knives in the hands of the barbarians, and in turn massacre the people of Daxia, Mu Jingwu would not be able to do it. He did not want to become a sinner of the nation. After hearing his son's words, Mu Changtian fell into silence and did not speak for a long time. His inner thoughts were actually the same as Mu Jingwu's. If he was just asked to surrender to a certain prince in Daxia, he would definitely not hesitate, but if he were asked to seek refuge with the barbarians, he would be extremely reluctant. Back then, the barbarians invaded Daxia and killed many civilians in Daxia, and how many of his soldiers died at the hands of the barbarians? If he were to join the barbarians and become their lackey, it would be better to let him die. After thinking for a while, Mu Changtian said, "Okay, it's useless to think about it now. When we get to Beijing, we will know who the mysterious prince they talk about is. I haven't slept all night, so you should close your eyes and get some sleep. It will take many days to reach Bei County." Daxia, Beijing, Royal Palace Garden. After hearing the report from the Shadow Guard commander, Emperor Xia always felt that his information revealed something strange. His face looked very ugly. At this time, the entire imperial garden was extremely quiet, and the only sound that could be heard was the crucian carp jumping out of the water in the lotus pond. After a long while, Emperor Xia finally said, 3 grandmasters, facing a man whose power was exhausted, were actually dragged to death together by him. Emperor Xia's voice was cold, which invisibly exerted tremendous pressure on the people in the imperial garden. Obviously, Emperor Xia was in a very bad mood at this time. Although there are many grandmasters in Daxia, it is not easy to cultivate grandmasters. Killing a dying person means losing 3 grandmasters, which makes Emperor Xia very happy. At this time, Emperor Xia asked, "I'm very curious as to why Mu Changtian was able to use the blood-burning technique in the end. Shouldn't his power have been exhausted?" Having said this, Emperor Xia turned to look at the National Master Situ Su in the pavilion. "National Master, are you sure you sensed that the power in Mu Changtian's body dissipated?" Hearing Emperor Xia's words, Situ Su knew that Emperor Xia was suspicious of him. He asked, Your Majesty, do you think I didn't give him the Sangong pill? Emperor Xia said calmly, I just want to know why the Sangong pill has no effect on him. Emperor Xia was more suspicious, and he knew that Situ Su himself wanted to protect Mu Changtian, so she had to suspect that Situ Su had played some tricks on him. Situ Su then said, I did feel that the power in Mu Changtian's body had dissipated. As for why he was still able to use the blood-burning method, I'm afraid someone gave him the Xiaohuan Dan in prison, which allowed him to partially recover. Skill. Hearing what Situ Su said, Emperor Xia suddenly remembered that although there were not many elixirs in this world that could restore skills, they still existed, especially those sects that have done a lot of research on elixirs for restoring skills. At this time, Emperor Xia immediately said to the commander of the Shadow Guards, Check. Check it for me immediately. I want to see who is so brave and dares to go against me. Yes, Your Majesty. My subordinates resign. The Shadow Guard commander then turned and left. Looking at the Shadow Guard commander's leaving figure, Xia Huang said to himself, Mu Changtian is a good minister of mine. He even helped me solve a problem before he died. The trouble that Emperor Xia was talking about was obviously referring to Chen Pengyi, Mu Changtian's student. Emperor Xia reused Chen Pengyi at the beginning mainly to deal with Mu Changtian. Now that Mu Changtian was dealt with, Chen Pengyi had lost his role. Originally, he planned to wait for Chen Pengyi to come back and find an excuse to get rid of him too, but now it's better. Mu Changtian and Chen Pengyi died together. Now Daxia's military power is completely in his hands. With military power, he should do what he wants to do. Chapter 57 The Chu family faces internal and external troubles. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mu Changtian was assassinated while in exile. Before his death, the news that he used the blood-burning method to drag down 3 masters quickly spread throughout Daxia. With the death of Mu Changtian, Emperor Xia took complete control of the military power of Great Xia and had millions of soldiers at his disposal. Moreover, all the generals of these armies were single-handedly promoted by Emperor Xia, and most of these generals were loyal to Emperor Xia. Emperor Xia suddenly had so many soldiers in his hands. What did he want to do? What will he do? The major families in Daxia are not fools. For a time, the number of caravans in Daxia increased sharply, especially in the territories of the major vassals, and the number of caravans doubled, except, of course, North County. The caravan is just a cover for the aristocratic family. Using the caravan to travel around and collude with various forces is what the aristocratic family does. Emperor Xia had even sharpened his sword, so there was no way those aristocratic families would be silent at all. All the major families have the same idea. Since Emperor Xia is dishonest and disobedient, then change to another emperor. Throughout the dynasties, emperors have tried to eliminate aristocratic families. Some emperors used imperial examinations to weaken the foundation of aristocratic families, some emperors restricted aristocratic families in terms of land, and some emperors suppressed aristocratic families in business. But the effectiveness of those methods is still limited. Emperor Xia got rid of the 2 heavenly kings and completely controlled the military power of Daxia. He obviously lost patience with the aristocratic families. He wanted to use physical methods to directly eliminate the existing aristocratic families. Emperor Xia's actions were so fast and so purposeful that he naturally quickly attracted the attention of the major families, especially the Jiangnan family. Since Chu passed away due to unknown reasons, Chu Xiong has been guarding the capital over the years and has sent many spies to the capital. He will know about any trouble in the capital. After learning that Mu Changtian was dead and that the military power was in the hands of Emperor Xia, Chu Xiong couldn't sleep well these days, always feeling that the Chu family was an imminent disaster. Chu family, courtyard. Chu Xiong was sitting in the pavilion, looking at the intelligence coming from the capital, with a worried look on his face. At this time, 2 white-haired old men came to the pavilion, and one of them said, Brother, you have also seen Emperor Xia's actions. Shouldn't our Chu family be prepared? After hearing what his second brother Chu Liang said, Chu Xiong was silent for a moment, and then said, I have sent someone to contact King Qi. I believe there will be results soon. Hearing this, Chu Liang said dissatisfiedly, Brother, what is the use of King Qi? He is just a loser. Do you still expect him to rebel? Chu Xiong's idea was to use the vassal king to restrict Emperor Xia, forcing Emperor Xia to give up attacking the aristocratic family, or to encourage the vassal king to rebel, so that Emperor Xia had no energy to deal with the aristocratic family. Of course, if there was a vassal king who could defeat Emperor Xia, then he would. It couldn't be better. King Qi was the vassal king who was most dissatisfied with Emperor Xia. Since Emperor Xia ascended the throne, he had targeted King Qi many times, so the first person Chu Xiong chose to incite rebellion was King Qi, but obviously, the second brother Chu Liang had his own ideas. Chu Liang said at this time, "If you ask me, we should directly find someone to assassinate Emperor Xia. If he dies, all problems will be solved." The third brother Chu Song asked at this time, "If Emperor Xia dies, then who should we support to ascend to the throne?" Chu Liang said matter-of-factly, "It doesn't matter, of course I support the 8th prince." "If you don't support the 8th prince, do you still want to support that loser from Beijing who spends all his time drinking and drinking? Besides, the 8th prince's mother comes from the Wang family, a Jiangnan family. He can't be as whimsical as me and want to attack families like ours, and our Chu family happens to have a good relationship with the Wang family. After the 8th prince ascends the throne, we will send him some girls from the family. If the girls from the Chu family can have children of the 8th prince as soon as possible, it is not impossible to compete for the position of queen." After listening to Chu Liang's words, Chu Song said, "Second brother, why do I feel that the 9th prince is better? If he indulges in pleasure in the palace, wouldn't it be easier for us to control him? Whoever we want him to make as queen, whoever will be made the queen." Chu Liang snorted coldly and said, "You think I haven't thought about it this way? He is just a loser who can't support the wall. If you really choose him, do you think he can balance the interests of the major families? Moreover, the resistance in the court will be greater, and those ministers will not agree. Among the princes, all of them are qualified, but he is not. Don't forget, he is Chu Yu's child, and his relationship with Xianyue Palace is unusual. If he really comes to power, will it be our turn to control him?" Chu Song said, "Second brother, what you said makes sense." At this time, Chu Xiong said with a dark face, "Second brother, you have just said that. No matter how much you say, Chu Yu is still my daughter. No matter how we arrange the relationship, she is my daughter first, and then the goddess of Xianyue Palace. Why isn't her son qualified to sit in that position? Besides, you don't really think that Emperor Xia is so easy to assassinate, right? Isn't it too early to start discussing who should ascend the throne now? There is a Grand Master beside Emperor Xia, and apart from Situ Su, we don't know if there are other Grand Masters secretly protecting him. To succeed in the assassination, I'm afraid it will be even harder than reaching the sky." Chu Liang mocked and said, "Brother, I think you are old and your brain is not flexible anymore. Why do you think I just said that I support the 8th prince? The 8th prince is in the capital now. He can completely assist us in completing our plan to assassinate Emperor Xia." Chu Xiong frowned and said immediately, "No, we absolutely cannot assassinate Emperor Xia now. If the assassination fails, Emperor Xia will definitely use this as an excuse to attack the noble family immediately. We are not sufficiently prepared to take this risk." Now everyone in the court knew that Emperor Xia was going to take action against the aristocratic family, and the aristocratic family also knew that Emperor Xia was going to take action against the aristocratic family, but even if Emperor Xia wanted to eradicate the aristocratic family, he still needed a legitimate reason. Originally, Emperor Xia hadn't found a suitable excuse yet, but at this time, the family sent people to assassinate Emperor Xia. Wouldn't that just give Emperor Xia a reason? Seeing that Chu Xiong was afraid of this and that, Chu Liang snorted coldly and said, "Brother, your courage is really getting weaker and weaker. Emperor Xia's butcher knife is about to fall, and you are still worried about this and that. I think you have to wait for the day when Emperor Xia's million-strong army arrives in Sufeng City, then you will be happy." Having said this, Chu Liang turned around and left. Seeing Chu Liang leaving, Chu Song hurriedly followed, Second brother, if you have anything to say, please speak up. The eldest brother is also thinking about the family, so don't be angry." Seeing the two of them singing together, Chu Xiong's expression turned ugly. He was not a fool. How could he not know what Chu Liang and Chu Song were thinking? Chu Song seemed to be talking to the ninth prince just now, but in fact he was talking to Chu Liang. Several of Chu Song's sons married girls from the Wang family, and even the concubines he took were from the Wang family. There was no need to think too much about his position. Needless to say, Chu Liang coveted the position of the head of the family for more than a day or two. Now that the Chu family has fallen into internal and external troubles, Chu Xiong feels even more tired when he thinks that his son is so unsatisfactory and thinks about women every day. Chu Xiong rubbed his forehead, and then said to the woman behind him who had no sense of existence, "Qingli, your sister is in Beijun, you should also go to Beijun. If the Chu family really suffers a disaster one day, there's no need to come back." Upon hearing this, the woman in a green dress behind him said, "Yes, the head of the family." The woman's voice was cold, without any emotion, as if she were a complete killing tool. Chapter 58 King Beibei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 58 Bei, King of the North. As they get closer and closer to Beijun, Mu Guogong's family becomes more and more nervous. What the female relatives of Duke Mu's mansion want is that they can finally see Mu Zixuan. Especially the Mu family, they have always wanted to know how their daughter is doing in Beiwang mansion, but what the men in Duke Mu's mansion were nervous about was whether they would just pass by Beijun and then continue to the north. If they just pass through Beijun, they will go to the territory of the barbarians. If they are asked to betray Daxia, they will definitely not be able to do it. Soon Mu Changtian and the others discovered that the convoy did not stop after they arrived in Beijun, and they continued to head north. This made Mu Changtian's heart suddenly lift. Is it possible that these people are really the work of the barbarians? Then Mu Changtian stuck his head out of the carriage, looked at the Genie Wei riding outside and asked, "Little brother, where are we going?" That the Genie Wei soldiers immediately replied, "Mr. Mu, our destination is Yancheng. It will take a few days to arrive." Hearing the Genie Wei soldiers tell them their specific destination, Mu Changtian breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that he was going to Yancheng. Then Mu Changtian retracted his head into the carriage. At this time, Mu Xingping asked, "Dad, I remember that the northern king is in Yancheng. Is the mysterious prince they talked about really the northern king?" Mu Changtian shook his head and then said, "It can't be him. Yancheng is the most prosperous city in Beijun. It's not surprising that the mysterious prince would see us in Yancheng." Mu Changtian didn't think Lu Chen was such a huge force at all. After all, everyone knew what kind of prince Lu Chen was. A few days later, Beijun, Yancheng, the Mu mansion convoy dressed as a caravan slowly entered Yancheng. After discovering that Yancheng had arrived, the people in the carriage opened the curtains and looked at everything outside. At this time, Mu Changtian was closing his eyes to rest. Mu Jingwu reminded, "Dad, we have arrived at Yancheng." After hearing Mu Jingwu's reminder, Mu Changtian opened his eyes and looked out the window. Although Yancheng is the most prosperous city in Beijun, at a glance, you can see the difference between Yancheng and other cities in Daxia. Most of the people on the road were wearing patched clothes, and they were very patched. Many people had no shoes on their feet and walked barefoot. If I had to find something to praise Beijun, it would be that the eyes of the people are bright and they look very energetic, as if they are full of expectations for the future. At this time, Mu Xingping said, "I didn't expect that Yancheng, the most prosperous city in Beijun, is still so poor. It seems that it may not be easy for Beijun to develop. I don't know how my little sister is doing in Beiwang mansion." Mu Jingwu said, "Don't worry, although Beijun is poor, Bai Wangfu is not poor at all. I heard that Bai Wangfu can earn hundreds of thousands of taels of silver a month by selling perfume and soap." At this moment, Mu Changtian's thoughts were not in the carriage. He just wanted to meet the mysterious prince. He was already planning in his mind what he should do if the other party was a barbarian. At the same time, North Palace, Lu Qinggang and Wang Qingxi had just finished exercising and were now in the pavilion selecting portraits of women who had taken concubines in the palace. Although Mu Zixuan had already chosen her once, she was Lu Chen's concubine after all, so she still had to show it to Lu Chen. However, Lu Chen didn't particularly care about portraits. Portraits are even more outrageous than modern photoshops, which are based on the original drawings, and the portraits are purely subjective strokes by the artist himself. However, Lu Chen still reluctantly chose some more beautiful portraits of women. Anyway, this was the primary election, and the real concubine selection still required him to see it in person. Without taking a look in person, he wouldn't know how many ratings those women had. At this moment, a guard in brocade clothes entered the courtyard. "Your Majesty, Duke Mu's family has arrived." Upon hearing this, Lu Chen immediately got up from the stone bench. Their family finally arrived, which was a surprise for Mu Zixuan. Then Lu Chen said, "Arrange for us to meet immediately." "Yes, Your Majesty." After reporting the situation, the armored guard turned around and left. Mu's motorcade finally stopped at Yanqing Yueli restaurant. After entering the restaurant, a middle-aged man who was 8 feet tall and extremely strong came to Mu Changtian. Seeing the man in front of him, Mu Changtian was startled. "Another grandmaster. How terrifying is the power under that mysterious prince. In just a short time, they have already met 2 masters." Qin Yushan said at this time, "Mr. Mu, you 3, please come with me." Qin Yushan was naturally talking about Mu Changtian and his 2 sons. After hearing the words of the man in front of them, Mu Changtian and the 3 of them knew that they were probably going to meet the mysterious prince next. When they thought of this, the 3 of them were extremely excited. Immediately, Mu Changtian and the others separated from the female members of the Mu family. The female members of the Mu family went to the backyard of the restaurant, while Mu Changtian and the others followed Qin Yushan to the 2nd floor. However, when they arrived at the private room on the 2nd floor, they did not see the mysterious prince. Qin Yushan said at this time, "Mr. Mu, please wait a moment, our prince will be here soon." Mu Changtian didn't think much, he just had to wait. Time passed by minute, and after about 2 quarters, the door of the private room was opened. After hearing the movement at the door, Mu Changtian and the others immediately stood up from their stools. Their eyes were fixed on the door, wanting to see who showed up. However, when the door slowly opened, a familiar face appeared in front of the 3 of them. Seeing the person coming, Mu Changtian was immediately dumbfounded. He murmured, "Bei, King of the North." Not only was Mu Changtian dumbfounded, his 2 sons also stayed where they were. It's not like they don't know who King Bei is. Mu Changtian still remembered that he had met Bei Wang once when he left the capital. At that time, Bei Wang's mind was still very immature and he didn't even know the political taboos. Such a person with no knowledge or skills at all, and no political acumen at all, actually holds such a huge power in his hands. Mu Changtian couldn't help but think, could it be that King Bei had been hiding his clumsiness in the past, pretending to be a loser, making people really think that he didn't understand anything? If this is the case, then King Bei is too scheming. King Bei not only deceived them, but also deceived all the people of the Great Xia Dynasty. The 3 of them didn't think that King Bei was the mysterious prince until they entered Bei County, but in the end, it was King Bei himself who they saw. King Bei has such a deep scheming, and also has such a huge power in his hands, there is no need to guess what he wants to do. Seeing Mu Changtian and the others looking at him in disbelief, Lu Chen smiled and asked, "Father-in-law, you seem surprised to see me?" Hearing Lu Chen's words, Mu Changtian, his father and his son came back to their senses. They quickly saluted and said, "See the King of the North." Chapter 59. The trees are beautiful in the forest, but the wind will destroy them. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Mu Changtian finished his salute, he said with a slight embarrassment, "Your Majesty, I didn't expect that you would be the one who saved the Mu mansion in the end." On their way to Beijing, Mu Changtian and the others had not thought that the mysterious Prince Liang Zong and the others mentioned was the Bei Wang. After all, Beijing was the fiefdom of the Bei Wang, but the idea that that mysterious prince is the North King only flashed through their minds, and they quickly denied it in their hearts. However, the person who stood in front of them in the end was King Bei himself. This shocked them extremely. They really couldn't believe that King Bei, who was rumored to be uneducated and dissolute, could hide so deeply. Judging from the fact that King Bei was able to produce the Great Return Pill and that he had such a huge power in his hands, if he participated in seizing the heir, the eldest prince would definitely not be his opponent. At this time, Mu Changtian and his son had a question in their hearts at the same time. Why did the Northern King still hide his clumsiness when he had such a huge power? If he participates in seizing the heir, and has the power in his hands and the support of the Jiangnan family, then the position in the capital is likely to be his. Now that the king of the north has been driven to Beijing, if he still wants the position in the capital, he will eventually have to raise an army, but Mu Changtian and the others also saw the conditions in Beijing. If they raised troops in Beijing, it would be difficult to defeat the elite soldiers of Daxia. Even if they win the battle, Daxia will definitely destroy all lives, leaving King Bei with another mess. Lu Chen said at this time, "You all should sit down, don't stand." Having said this, Lu Chen entered the private room, and the guard in brocade clothes at the door then closed the door. After Lu Chen entered the private room, Mu Changtian asked directly, "My lord, you have such a huge power, why did you hide your clumsiness in the capital in the first place?" Lu Chen said calmly, "If the trees are beautiful in the forest, the wind will destroy them. My father-in-law is now in his prime. If he knows that I have such a huge power in my hands, what do you think my father-in-law will do?" Upon hearing this, Mu Changtian and the others reacted instantly. As a prince, King Bei had such huge power in his hands and had his own people in the army. If Emperor Xia knew about it, he would definitely be suspicious of him. You, a prince, have been vigorously cultivating your own power and winning over soldiers in the army when your father was still in his prime. What do you want to do? However, Mu Changtian still didn't understand. Even if King Bei had a huge power in his hands, there was no need for him to pretend to be a waste. He just had to not reveal his trump card. Although he was confused, Mu Changtian no longer planned to continue asking. After knowing that King Bei was a very scheming person, Mu Changtian no longer regarded King Bei as a political novice. He now only believed that King Bei must have done this carefully. King Bei must have a bigger plan. Although the northern king was also a bloodline of the Xia emperor, because the northern king rescued the Mu mansion, and because Mu Zixuan was the northern king's princess, Mu Changtian had no psychological grudge against Lu Chen. Mu Changtian said at this time, "The king of the north saved our Mu mansion. If the king of the north needs me in the future, Mu Changtian will be utterly devastated." Mu Changtian's words were equivalent to a direct declaration of allegiance to Lu Chen. After hearing what Mu Changtian said, Mu Xingping and Mu Jingwu quickly saluted and said, "We also swear to follow the northern king to the death." Lu Chen smiled and said, "We are all a family, so don't say such things." Having said this, Lu Chen looked at Mu Changtian and asked, "Father-in-law, there is actually a question that I have been confused about, but I can't find anyone to ask it. You just happen to be here, and I want to ask you for advice." When Lu Chen talks to his own people, he never calls himself my king. Using I can shorten the distance between them. However, Mu Changtian is a relatively conservative person. Although Lu Chen is his son-in-law, he is still a prince. In Mu Changtian's eyes, Prince Lu Chen's identity is greater than that of his son-in-law. Mu Changtian still said respectfully, "Your Majesty, please explain." Lu Chen then asked, "It stands to reason that if my father wants to get rid of the aristocratic family, he will definitely need a sharp sword. There is no doubt that you, father-in-law, are the most suitable, but why?" Lu Chen did not continue talking. After all, it involved Mu Changtian's sadness. Mu Changtian instantly understood the question Lu Chen wanted to ask. He sighed and replied, your Majesty has never trusted me." In other words, in his eyes, I am not that sharp sword. Even if it is a sharp sword, it can only be the sword of a noble family. Mu Changtian originally wanted to call Emperor Xia by his first name, but thinking that King Bei was the son of Emperor Xia, it was not good to call Emperor Xia by his first name in front of him, so he finally called Emperor Xia Your Majesty. At this time, Mu Changtian thought of something, so he continued, "And I suspect that Your Majesty already has a sharper sword in his hand." After hearing Mu Changtian's words, Lu Chen fell into deep thought. After a while, Lu Chen said, "The Mu mansion is gone. I have prepared a new residence for you, but I'm afraid you will need to change your surname in the future." Mu Changtian immediately said, "Thank you, King Bei. It would be good if they could survive." As for changing their surnames, Mu Changtian didn't care that much. As long as Emperor Xia died, their surnames could be changed back. At this time, Mu Changtian asked tentatively, "My lord, what are your plans after coming to Beijing?" From Mu Changtian's point of view, the northern king had such a powerful force in his hands that he could not be willing to be an idle prince in Beijing. Mu Changtian wanted to seize this opportunity. As long as the northern king ascends the throne and becomes the new Xia emperor, the Mu mansion can still be as glorious as it once was. Although the Mu family fell to this state because of Emperor Xia, Mu Changtian did not have much hatred for Lu Chen, the son of Emperor Xia, because this was a political struggle and the interests of his son and father were different. In most dynasties, old emperors exiled their old ministers, and then the new emperor reused the idea of exiling the old ministers. This was an opportunity for the new emperor to show kindness. After the exiled old ministers returned to the court, most of them would not hate the new emperor, but would be grateful to the new emperor. Emperor, hearing Mu Changtian's question, Lu Chen's lips raised slightly, revealing a smile. I don't have any plans yet. This, Mu Changtian was stunned. He didn't believe what Lu Chen said. King Bei has been hiding in the capital for so many years, and has accumulated such a powerful force in his hands. If he said that King Bei didn't have any plans, no one would believe him. Lu Chen knew that Mu Changtian didn't believe it, so he continued, the time has not come yet. No matter how busy you are, it will be in vain. Mu Changtian realized instantly that King Bei was waiting for a suitable opportunity. He said, how could such a scheming person as Bei Wang settle down in a corner? Mu Changtian immediately said, Your Majesty, if there is ever a need for me in the future, Mu Changtian will definitely fight to the death. Lu Chen said, not later, I need my father-in-law to do me a favor now. Mu Changtian immediately said, Your Majesty, please speak. Lu Chen said, I plan to train a cavalry force in Beijing, but there are no suitable generals. I wonder if you have any ideas, father-in-law. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Mu Changtian felt a little excited. He didn't expect that he would be able to play a role just after coming to Beijing. He quickly stood up and saluted Lu Chen and said, I will train this cavalry as soon as possible. Live up to the prince's expectations. Lu Chen nodded, then stood up and said, Okay, let's come here today. I will ask the princess to visit you in your new home later. Having said this, Lu Chen walked towards the door. Mu Changtian and his son saluted again and said, Best farewell to the prince.